Tonight, we're going to be talking about Bob Iger. He is no longer with the company. We're going to talk about the impact he had. We're going to give a little preview of the Epcot Festival of the Arts and much more tonight on ParksCenter. Thank you guys so much for joining us for ParksCenter tonight. It is January 9th, 2022. This is our first show back, and we start with some bad news that tonight Mr. Bob Saget passed away at the age of 65. So very tragic news, but we wanted to say our condolences to his friends and family, and our thoughts and prayers are with them. It's been a tough start to 2022, folks, but we're gonna talk some Disney stuff, and hopefully it'll lift some spirits. But anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge that before we moved out. So, Desi, you've got to follow that up. Here's Desi. How are you?
Hi. Happy New Year.
And Coach is with us tonight.
Happy New Year. It's game time. Excited to talk, try to raise spirits a little bit. R.I.P. Bob Saget. I saw him perform once, and he was hysterical and not exactly what you would think from Full House. So, yeah. But a true comedic genius. Rest in peace, Bob, and condolences to him. But let's have a positive show. And
Mr. David Smith, how are you?
Hey, good evening, everyone. And I second what Coach said. It's always surprising how many different aspects of Bob's career there were.
Yeah, absolutely. And the father figure on Full House, as many people know, was not the same comedian that you would see in the club. So I think that threw a lot of people for a loop. There's still more information to come about Bob Saget, but again, Bob Saget passed away today. So, moving on from that, let's talk about a different Bob. We're going to have a conversation about Bob Iger. On December 31st, 2021, Bob Iger said goodbye to this company, not WDWNT. Well, kind of, sort of. But when he left, I think there were some articles stirring around that said, hey, maybe he will stay. And then he came out with an interview that said, hey, he's looking forward to just a blank canvas. Now, when I was growing up, it was Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner was on TV. He was The Wonderful World of Disney. He was, he was the representative of the company, and we had that figurehead. And obviously, it was Uncle Walt way back in the day. We look fondly back on that. I wish I had been alive when Walt was, was the man running the company, and he was the face of the company. We had that. We didn't have it until, again, Michael Eisner came around. David, I want to throw this one to you. Did you have specific thoughts about Michael Eisner when you were watching him on TV? Did he feel like he was, the man behind the mouse?
He did to me. I mean, I'm not old enough to have experienced Walt Disney in that role. So for me, Michael Eisner sort of filled that role. You could always tell he was trying to. He was trying very hard to fill that role. He wasn't as successful, obviously, as doing that, but he wanted to try. It felt like he was trying to make the effort to be that person, to be the figurehead of the company, in addition to being the CEO of the company. So I appreciated that about him. I appreciated his efforts. There were times, especially towards the end, when it started coming off as he was trying a little too hard. It started becoming less genuine, but overall, I liked what Eisner did. And I think, as we transitioned at that point to Iger, Iger provided a completely different look at the CEO of this company.
Yeah. Desi, I don't know, did you have any memories of Michael Eisner and Wonderful World of Disney and what he was bringing to the company?
I was a kid really in the 90s, so not too much, but I definitely knew who he was. I recognized his face. I at the time thought that everything he was doing was great with building MGM Studios and Disney Cruise Line and all that. That was all very exciting for me.
Yeah, and he brought about what was the Disney decade, right? So early on, he was the one responsible for bringing on all of the new hotels, bringing on the cruise line, as you mentioned, expansion into Paris and whether that was the right idea or not. there was a lot of stuff that he did early on in creating the Disneyland Resort and creating, more theme parks at Walt Disney World. He really did have a lot of belief in the parks. And, while he was expanding the company in other ways with, Touchstone Pictures, so that there was another label they could release more adult or grown-up films in. There was a lot of different branches of things he did, and obviously some things that didn't really hit the way that they should have. There were, several ventures that didn't hit the way they did. And David, to your point, a lot of that happened at the end when they decided they wanted to get rid of Michael Eisner. Coach, real quick, anything, memories for you of Eisner before we move on to Bob?
I think he started off really well, and then it kind of, you can say he obviously didn't have the greatest personality. A lot of people that have worked with him weren't necessarily big fans of him, but I think he did focus on the parks. I think his goal was to expand the parks. Whether or not he executed that vision, obviously we find out later on there were some massive problems, which sort of leads to Iger stepping in. But I think we always talk on this show about how we want them to invest in the parks and do a job that really focuses on the guests, right? And that's something that seemed like Eisner tried to do. For as many faults, I think he did a lot of good things. But I think, like anything else, when you have a CEO of a company, if it's a president of a college, I work in higher education, the general rule is really effective presidents generally are in 8 to 12 kind of year range, and then they get out. The reason for that is they tend to get isolated and they get kind of stuck in their ways. They don't necessarily get the information that they should be getting. And I think Eisner was a victim of that later on. But a lot of good things that did come out. I think we tend to have revisionist history where we like to, dump on him at the end. But in the beginning, there was a lot of really good things.
We don't like to dump on him at the end. I don't want to dump on Bob Iger at the end, and especially, I guess part of that though is that what Eisner came into was basically a train wreck. I mean, there was a
failing company.
Yeah, there was a hostile takeover. Yeah. There was a lot of bad, and he came in and brought a lot of good. And then near the end of his term, there was a lot of bad. And then here comes 2000, and Michael Eisner is not a favorite on the board, and they kind of they're looking for his head. And then here comes they lift Bob Iger out of ABC, and he's righting a lot of the wrongs that they had right out of the gate. One of the reasons they said they didn't like Eisner was that he was making parks on the cheap, and then California Adventure was one of Bob Iger's first things that he jumps on, is doing this huge rebuild of California Adventure. And then you had the Pixar relationship, which I think that on paper, the Pixar relationship that Pixar wanted, didn't look great. They were like, hey, we want our characters back. You can distribute our movies if you want. The solution that Iger came up with merging the companies together was a great idea. And I think that, again, was a big sticking point for everyone about Pixar and what a big deal it had been in those years, and that Michael Eisner was ready to let that relationship go. Eisner brought also the Muppets to the table, but we never really saw too much happen with the Muppets at that point. But here comes Bob Iger and does things like Marvel and Lucasfilm, and then, of course, the huge Fox merger that he brought to the table. And during that time, there was a lot of times where he was like almost going to leave us, and then he didn't because of one reason or another. And I want to go around, and we'll start with Desi on this one. What do you think was the biggest thing out of all those that Bob Iger brought to the table for the Disney company?
Well, I've been reading his book, Ride of a Lifetime, and it's really interesting how many different aspects of the company he touched. And one thing that stuck with me was what he said was, one of the most emotional weeks for him. This all happened within a week. There was the Pulse shooting in Orlando, where there were some cast members who were affected. There was the child who was eaten by an alligator at the Grand Floridian, and they opened Shanghai, all within that same week. And that seemed like a lot to deal with, all within the same week. He got on the phone from Shanghai with the Graves family and spoke to them, and it really sounded very emotional to me.
Yeah. What about you, David?
So I think that what Iger brought more than anything was the willingness to acquire and consolidate. And if you look at the Disney CEOs over time, you really see that they're mirroring the shift in Hollywood and entertainment throughout time. I mean, Walt was the old Hollywood studio system. When he died, the company didn't really react to what started becoming studio expansion as they started bringing on more properties, bringing on TV, more distribution methods. But then Iger righted that ship, so he got them into that mode of expansion. And then as the industry started shifting towards that acquisition and consolidation of properties, Eisner wasn't ready for that. So Iger came in and he brought that. So he got the company on board with that. And so, the three acquisitions that we always talk about, but I think these are the three most important, were, first of all, Pixar. Not, it's a no-brainer now, but it wasn't at the time. The acquisition of Lucasfilm, I mean, you would like to have seen them make better use of that, but that was a huge one. And then by far the biggest was Marvel. I mean, where would Disney's film business be without that Marvel property? It would, they do have some good properties outside of Marvel, but Marvel is by far making them the biggest studio in the industry, and that's why they won the last box office year.
Yeah, okay. And Coach is frozen. Sweet. So his vote.
Can you hear me still? Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you might want to go.
What's going on with my camera?
You might want to go ahead and refresh so we can see you, and you can have a more in-depth conversation. I'm going to say though that for me, I feel like there were a lot of start and stops with other things that they could have done too. I remember there was a conversation about Twitter. That might have been one of the things they brought to the table. I remember Hasbro. Man, I was excited about Hasbro. And, neither of those things came to be. And I got to think that as smart a man as he was at making these moves, that he just didn't see the value in it at some point. Coach, now that you're back, what are your what do you think the biggest thing was that he brought to the table?
I think the vision for I think we see everyone likes to talk about Pixar, obviously. Understanding where the company was at that time when he took over. I mean, they were on the verge of being bought by Comcast. I think we all sort of forget that. And then later on, if you fast forward and realize that he was able to purchase Fox against Comcast, is pretty striking. I think he I don't know that he gets a lot of credit for the Pixar in terms of it really, the fledgling animation studio that we were dealing with Disney at the time, I think really elevated it. And then when you look at the Marvel acquisition, I think is huge. Obviously, superhero movies are very popular. They make a ton of money. And I think the deal is it became really about profits. Unfortunately, I think it set a tone of what the Disney company was going to be moving forward, and they lost a little bit of their identity at the end, but you can't fault the relationships that he built. I mean, Eisner had virtually destroyed that Pixar relationship, and Iger just steps in and just is able to repair that. I mean, that's pretty amazing when you consider that what takes place in order for that to happen. So I think he doesn't necessarily get the credit. It wasn't like he just had the merger. He took a very bad relationship and then was able to repair it and make it more beneficial for Disney. So that's pretty substantial stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when it comes to his later parts of his life with the company, at the end he was going to leave, and then the Fox merger happened, and he said he would stick with the company until the Fox merger was over. And then obviously when COVID hit, he said he would stick with them and come back and do some be kind of in a leadership role. And then finally December 31st, that was the end of his tenure. But there were a couple things that he said on the way out that I think are very important to mention. One is he said that he wanted to warn that not to let data influence the creative decisions. This seems like it was very targeted for him to bring this up. And then also he had mentioned at some time that he might run for president. I think we all thought that was a thing that might happen, and that didn't happen. Also, he said one of the reasons he thought it was time to retire was he stopped listening to other people. And again, specifically the stop listening to other people and the not letting things be data driven. David, is this anything but a direct kind of plea to Bob Chapek?
I think it's, in many ways it is a plea to Chapek to use his heart. I think Iger learned over his time running the company that it's not all about the brain. You gotta bring some emotion into it, just to keep the fans happy and to really make good decisions. You have to think about what is going to strike at people's emotions, and so that's why I think he's encouraging the company now. Chapek, I think, is just one of many within the company that would like to see the company driven by purely data and numbers and dollars and shareholder value. And I think Chapek has actually surrounded himself by those that agree with him, which is his right to do as CEO. And so the Iger making these statements is a way to kind of push them along, but also let I'll call it a grassroots effort to get the rest of the company thinking about how can we work around the current constraints and still keep what makes Disney Disney.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So now that he's gone, I think there were some other things that people thought might happen during his time. I think a lot of us thought John Lasseter would be the guy. Obviously, Lasseter made some not so good decisions, and then was released from the company. And then I think that we all felt like Tom Staggs might be the guy, and again he also left the company. So. And I think that as Josh D'Amaro has moved up, we've all seen him sort of as that guy, and I think I could see him more as that figurehead to the company more so than the current. Desi, what do you think about all
that? I still like Josh a lot. I know that not everybody does, but maybe I'm just blinded by his smile. But I think that Josh would make a great leader. I also think outside the box. Maybe somebody like a Jon Favreau might be a good person. I really think what they need is a chief creative officer, somebody who can oversee things from a creative standpoint, because the current leadership seems only focused on the finances.
Yeah, Coach? Is muted. Are you muted?
Sorry about that. I equate this to Major League Baseball in a lot of ways. I have friends that I'm involved with it myself. And baseball has gone very data-driven, taken the experience and the value of the experience of managers and certain people, and they've now gone kind of the other way. Now they're going back to sort of the old school way of doing things. I think Disney can learn a lot. Bob's a guy that kind of had to, let's be honest, save the company. Chapek was definitely overwhelmed. They couldn't handle it. Sometimes when you give somebody a title, they think all of a sudden they get smarter. Titles don't mean anything. So I think it was sort of one of those things where he was out of his element. It was very obvious. Bob had to walk in and sort of save things. And he's giving some friendly advice on the way out. Whether or not Chapek wants to listen to that or not, there is going to be a breaking point. We've talked about it many times on this show. At some point, people are just going to say it's too much money, I'm not going, or I'm only going once every 10 years. And then what's going to happen? I think we're seeing it with the Star Cruiser, among other things. People have had enough, and I think that's why you see Chapek in trouble. Iger's trying to give him a little bit of advice and say, hey, this is the way you can fix it. You can turn it around right now, but you got to be willing to listen. And the fact that he mentioned he wasn't listening to people anymore goes back to my previous point. Once you realize and get isolated and get in a silo, it's tough to be an effective leader because you have no idea what's going on in sort of outside of that bubble. So I think it's a pretty bold statement. I'm worried it's going to fall on deaf ears, but hopefully Chapek's listening.
I don't know why you would think it would fall on deaf ears, man. That's really weird that you would say that. You know what? There's been so much good, and I think that at the time I always thought that Michael Eisner kind of got the raw end of the deal, because I think, to your point, Desi, he sort of was the creative guy, and Frank Wells was sort of his like money guy, the same way that Walt was the creative guy, and that his brother Roy was the money guy. And so I feel like that was that perfect matchup that they had again. And I feel like there would have been something along those lines had it been Lasseter being creative, and there would have been, again, some sort of a money person on the side. So I think that from that standpoint, if there were two equals, and, I think that Chapek has, if you look at it, and there was a Tom versus Josh show where Josh was arguing the point of staying with Chapek and all of the accomplishments he's brought. And there were a lot of accomplishments, but they all feel very data/money driven. That maybe that would have been that balance that they needed. Maybe there would have been, like Lasseter and Chapek might have been, a good balance if he was the behind the scenes money guy versus being the face of the company. That may have worked out a little bit better. But I think right now we all have some concerns. And if you saw, there was a picture at the marathon this weekend that somebody said. I forget what it said.
You run Disney better than JPEG.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I feel like it's not just, it's funny that most of the people don't think about the person who runs the company, right? You don't really usually think about that, but Walt started very early on making himself the face of the company. It was his name, it was his company, and then Michael Eisner jumped into those shoes too. Bob Iger had a lot of that too. When he would take the stage at D23, he would take the stage and present the legends with their awards. He would, when he made the big announcement about Star Wars coming, Galaxy's Edge coming, he was not supposed to be there. He came back to the stage to make that announcement that it was coming and that there would be not just one, but two. Like, I remember him saying that, and we were all like freaking out, like how exciting it was that was finally going to happen. And so I do think he did a really good job with that. And I talked about this before on a previous episode where I went to the stockholders meeting that they had in Raleigh right before COVID, and he and Bob Chapek were there together, and he was just so on top of it and pleasant and had the right answers to everything from the question and the Q&As that were coming, and that was not Bob Chapek's strength. He was, again, my son used the expression that he looked like he was a kid doing a book report versus, Bob Iger was doing a very good job of presenting and answering the questions, and you get a lot more confidence from a guy like that. So I know with his presidential bid, I would have voted for the guy. I mean, I think that one of the things he said about the presidential bid was that he felt like as a businessman running as a Democrat, it wasn't going to align correctly. And then I think he more moved into independent as his lane. And then also there was some talk about him being in the Biden administration. I mean, I think overall, I am sad to see him go. When I saw this story that we had about maybe he would be coming back, that there were rumblings within the company that he would stay on, I was really excited because there's been a lot of bad things that have happened recently. And whether we can blame them all on Bob Chapek or whether he's just been the scapegoat, it just seems to align all too perfectly with the move away from all of the perks we had with annual passes, from the paid lightning lanes in the parks to, downscaling attractions because of money, to cutting attractions out altogether, to getting rid of entertainment, all of these things. I can't imagine that he's not involved with those decisions in some major way as the guy who's running the company, and not just being the scapegoat for it. But we'll see what happens moving forward. The training wheels are off, and he is the man. The one other thing that happened, though, is that Bob Iger was chairman of the board as well, and we have a different chairman of the board. So Susan Arnold has succeeded Bob Iger. So Bob Chapek does not sit as chairman of the board and CEO as previous leaders have. So anyway, I just wanted us to acknowledge that, to talk about like the accomplishments and the things that he's brought to the table, because I think it's like he went, Rob, you know what are your favorite things? You like Star Wars? We're going to buy that. Oh, you like Marvel and comics? Yeah, we're going to buy that too. It's like, let's bring it all in the house, and it's all Disney now. You can love it all. So I'm very excited that those things are there.
I think it's easy for all of us to understand that desire, right? Go acquire the things you really like.
Yep. So before we end this, I just want to go once around, final thoughts, and we'll start with you on this one, Coach. Just final thoughts on the tenure of Bob Iger.
I think overall, very positive. A lot of things that I think for the future of the Walt Disney Company are positive. I think it's a cautionary tale. I'll go back to the baseball analogy. There's an old saying in baseball: when you slide over 5 feet to the left, which is when you become an assistant coach to a manager, you go from making suggestions to decisions. And I think that's something that Chapek has struggled with. It's very easy to be in a room with people and throw a bunch of ideas out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you're the one that has to make that decision and that leadership shines through, I think you've seen a difference, right? Iger's a guy who's personable, good-looking guy. Guy can talk a little bit, and inspired people. Like you said at D23, he would speak, at the expos and things like that. I mean, he would speak and people would believe it. And Bob sounds like he's reading from the old Alex Trebek line. This man reads from a card, but he just seems like he's very rehearsed. I don't know that Bob Iger would get booed out of the park. So we're gonna miss him, and I think hopefully. He has some sort of a say, even if it's in an advisory role moving on, even if it's not necessarily official, down the line. So hopefully.
Yep. Agree. David?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cynical part of me would say that nothing has done more for Bob Iger's legacy than Bob Chapek. I'm not going to go so far as to say that was intentional in this election, but I think when we look back, we will have mostly positive things to say about Bob Iger. I think he will be rank up there, certainly in the top 3 CEOs of the company, as we look back 20 years from now. And I think that's warranted. There are some definitely decisions that we may disagree with, but overall, I think he had a good impact. I think what sets him apart and why he is in that top 3 is, like the other successful CEOs, he understood the legacy behind it. He understood that he liked the company. He liked what they were offering. He liked the parks. So even though he had to make business decisions, the sense you got was he enjoyed it. That's something I don't see with the less successful CEOs that we've had in the past and the one that we have currently.
Yep, good points. And finally, Desi?
I still think that Tom Staggs would have been a great choice as a successor because I feel like he had the finance and creative combo. He could do both. And it seems very hard to find somebody who can do both. I think overall there was good, there was bad about Bob Iger, but I think the lasting impression I think will be good when looking back.
Well, I'm excited about everything that he's put in place. I'm anxious to see what the future holds. We'll all look at it very optimistically and assume positive intent, and then maybe things will go really well. At the back end of this show tonight, we're going to be talking about 2022 and what's returning, what new things are coming, and there's a lot to be excited about. But next, we're going to be talking about Disney Parks news, and especially stuff we've missed while we were on the break. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break. Thanks for watching ParksCenter.
WDW News Tonight is our weekly comedy show combining the news of the week, comedy segments, thoughtful discussions, insane characters, parody commercials, games, and more. Watch live on Thursdays at 9 p.m. and become a Wigs member to get access to a bonus post show. Watch WDW News Tonight episodes anytime and live on YouTube, or get the audio-only version on iTunes and other podcast services.
Welcome to Unplanned Downtime, a new home for creative, innovative, and outlandish programming made for Disney fans, including Cosmic Read Live, discussions and Imagineering attractions, Deep in the Plus, reviewing the catalog on Disney Plus, Ink and Paint, celebrating female voices in the Disney fandom, Boxed In, opening mystery packages and viewer mail, Picky Eaters, trying to eat our way across Disney restaurants, WDWNT the RPG, a tabletop adventure set in Tokyo Disney Sea, and more of your favorites. Subscribe now at unplannedDowntime.com. Remember, it's not an accident, it's unplanned downtime.
Welcome back to ParksCenter. Thank you again so much for being with us this Sunday night. Again, it's our first show back since the new year, and we have a lot of stuff that we missed out on. Some of it was very sad. The passing of Betty White, which happened December 31st, that we got the news. Just a Disney legend, and I was at a D23 when they gave the Golden Girls their Legacy Award, and I was thinking, no way. And at the time, she and there were only two that were remaining alive, and she walked out on stage, and I thought, how is this even possible that Betty White is here to receive this award? That was amazing. It was always neat to when she would show up. I remember every time her birthday would come up on Twitter, it would say, don't scare me like that. Why is Betty White trending? And unfortunately, this time it was because she passed away. There's, I think, a big theater presentation that's happening with very soon in your local theater, so you might want to check it out. Also of note, we had New Year's celebrations for the first time since COVID, so that was a big deal that we had fireworks at the Magic Kingdom and the huge fireworks display at Epcot. The Walt Disney World Marathon weekend was this weekend, so to anyone who actually raced, I don't know why you would run without being chased, but good on you for getting out there and doing that. Typhoon Lagoon finally reopened. I was actually a little scared about this. The in-room notification, or I guess it was like the press reel that runs in your hotel rooms, said, hey, we have 4 parks and 1 water park. And I was thinking, is this not going to come back at some point? And now it's back. So we had a lot of coverage on that on the site. And then also we lost Rebecca, the black male swan, and that's all stuff that happened since we've been gone. So I guess the secret is we just need to not leave, and maybe things will stay okay. But with all this news that happened, what is the big story for you? And I feel like for Desi, it's Rebecca the Black Swan.
Yes. So the day before it broke on WDWNT, I was at Animal Kingdom. I took my kids to go say hi to Rebecca. I didn't see him out, and I got very nervous. I didn't see any cast members around, or else I would have asked, what happened to Rebecca? Why isn't he out here? I was hoping it was just that, he was being cleaned or, taken care of. I was really dreading what I saw the next day in the news. I was very, very sad about it. And Miss Allison and I were the last people to go say hi to him on a live stream.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let Coach follow that. Coach, what was the...
I think, for me, it's like we're starting to get back to things. Things that we've missed, things that are starting to come back that I think is encouraging. I think we can all agree that it's been, I saw a couple of things where it was like, we found out about Betty White and all this stuff going on. It's just like, enough. We're done. We need good news now. We want to be happy. We want to be exciting. And I think a lot of those celebrations, I know we were watching, my wife and I were actually watching the live stream of New Year's with Tom, and I thought that was really great to have that experience of almost like, okay, these are back now. Let's get back into it now. Let's start turning the corner here and being positive with things. And I know for me, like, New Year's is always the time where everybody sets out resolutions and tries to look forward to positive changes and things like that. And I think this is no different for me anyway. I tried to say, all right, we're going to kick off the year with Tom and be positive about it and look forward to hopefully only good news moving forward. So that's just what I was trying to take a positive spin on it, but certainly what I was hoping for anyway.
Yep. No, I agree. And David?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the best stories was Typhoon Lagoon reopening. Because like you, a couple, I'll say months ago, when we saw some of those overhead images of the park conditions, I was convinced that it was going away, that it was going to go the way of River Country, that they were just going to let it, fall apart and we weren't ever going to see a second water park again. But, kudos to the maintenance teams that got in there, brought it back, and it, it's open now. It looks great. And I'm happy to see that back.
Yeah, I agree. I was when we showed the aerial views, it was very reminiscent of River Country. And kids, if you don't know River Country, it was Disney's version of an old-fashioned swimming hole. And it, you know, it was abandoned and left there for years. And when you saw it from the sky, it looked a lot like Typhoon Lagoon looked when we saw those aerial shots. So I'm with you. I thought it wasn't coming back. I'm glad it is. I hope that they continue to invest in those water parks because I feel like, Advantage goes universal. I've not been to Volcano Bay, but everything I've seen from it looks like pretty amazing. So I'd hate to lose the one park that got the brand new attraction not that long ago. So again, I'm looking forward to going back to Typhoon Lagoon at some point. So yeah, that was a big deal. So also while we were gone, there's a lot more 50th announcements were made. And Coach, I think you're going to need this one in your household at some point. This 50th anniversary Cinderella collector doll. I assume you've got that on your wish list. And then this new tumbler, which looks amazing to me. I love the coloring on that one. There's new. Some of the 50th items went away for food, and some have come back. Our new ones have come to take their place. Some of this stuff looks absolutely incredible. Like this, whatever this garbage is on the left, I feel like I need one. It looks like the kitchen sink, but a smaller version of it. And then this. I'm
having bad flashbacks.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. This one's pretty exciting to me because I've done this little scavenger hunt in the parks for the 30th of the Disney Vacation Club, and now they have these buttons for the 50th, which are exciting. I love little free things. So here's this 50th anniversary I Cannot Tell a Lie shake and lemon Dole Whip. That looks fun and exciting. And then this 50th anniversary gift sticker is now available on Instagram. Desi, how many of those have you used already?
0.
Okay.
But well, I was really tempted to get the train set because I have 2 little boys who love trains, and when I saw the price tag of $500 for a train set, I decided against it because if I wasn't allowed to get the monorail, I certainly would not have been allowed to get the train set.
Yeah, I don't know what your problem is. I mean, like, this should just be a drop in the bucket for you, this $499 train set. I mean,
I do get an annual pass holder discount, right?
Sure. I mean, for now. You never know. I definitely, that's definitely a cool looking piece. I would like to have that, but I think I'm with you. I'd really sort of rather have the monorail. But, again, they're not available. Maybe they said, hey, the monorail sold out super fast. Maybe we should charge more for the train. I don't know. David, you were down for the 50th. Do you wish that you had gotten your hands on some of this stuff, either to eat or drink or buy or...
The food and drink, yes, absolutely. Although you did skip the laziest food item that they had for the 50th, or they're going to have, I think, the next day or so, which is the cinnamon roll with the little 50th chocolate on it. Just a normal cinnamon roll, not a special cinnamon roll, just a regular cinnamon roll, but they did put the chocolate.
Please say cinnamon roll 12 more times.
Yes. But I tell you what, the products that I wish they had available when I was down there was some of the Vault collection. The board game, which there's a video of the team playing that. That I thought would be awesome to have. Some of the other Vault collections. I really wanted the thermos and the lunchbox, but of course, as with most of these items, they were gone way too quick for me to get a hand on.
Yeah, I think that Desi would like to show this off right now.
Yeah, so I didn't get any of the items that you showed off, but I did get this because I'm a sucker for Lapu Lapus, and the idea of having a Lapu Lapu tumbler at home, I had to have it. I had to message our reporter who was in the park the day that at the Polynesian, the day that we broke this, to make sure that I could get one. I wanted the cookie jar, but again, at that price point, I couldn't justify it when this cookie jar was like $30.
Especially like when we're looking at the Lux collection and then this train. Who comes up with this pricing? there was that puffy jacket that's $150 that I it's got to hit the clearance rack at some point because, and no offense if you ran out and bought that one, but I was like $150 for that. That's insane. But they're continuing to roll out this 50th stuff, and I don't know if they're rolling it out because it was part of the shipment delays and that that we keep hearing about, or whether it was because they are trying to stretch it out over the entire 50th. I'd like to think that it's because they're trying to stretch it out, but I really honestly think that they had expected to have more of this in hand before all this happened. And Coach, you were down there, and now you're flexing your 50th mug. Is there anything else?
Well, but I don't know if flexing a resort cup really matters, but
that's more my budget.
It's actually funny story. This is actually from Emma. Believe it or not, Emma was down there and she sent me 2 cups, and then we went down there anyway and bought 2 more. So that was kind of poor planning on my part, but we were worried we wouldn't have any. No, I echo the whole Vault thing. There was really not a lot of Vault stuff when we went down. We went in July, and it wasn't anything that was halfway decent was gone. So it was frustrating for us. We were sort of hoping there was maybe they were going to launch some stuff early. We went and sort of over Thanksgiving on a sort of a flash trip that we just sort of happened. And there just wasn't as much stuff as we were hoping. But it was like anything else. 50th is 50th. I think it's one of those things. Emma's in chat. Emma, you're the best. So it's just really about there is some cool stuff. I think I wish I would probably going to try to steal that from Desi because I was in the Poly and they didn't have that. So I'm very jealous of your flex right now. But I will humbly flex with a plastic resort mug that everyone can get now.
Yeah.
Nobody had to throw fisticuffs over that mug.
As someone who likes to collect like all of the things, this is really a pick and choose for me because, again, there are so many different collections. Some of it I don't love, thankfully. Otherwise, I feel like I'd have to buy it. And then there's other stuff that, I look at and go, I'm not really sure that that's like a reasonable price for anything in this world. And it's weird. Like some things seem like a bargain and some things seem like they're just made up numbers. So again, that train for one, like I can't imagine there's $500 worth of pieces to that train. Maybe it's a supply and demand issue. I don't know, but maybe we'll see them at the 2 outlets that are left out in the world at some point.
You're not driving down with a $350 teddy bear?
I mean, don't tempt me. You know what you do, Dave? You take that and you put it into a sealed bag and you write "wishable" on the front, and
you're in.
I would do it. Yeah, I mean, I bought the 12 days calendar. Had to have that. Although that was actually, again, the 12 days calendar was $99 for that before discounts. There are 12 wishables in it, but if you go to buy one of these new Princess wishables, they're $14.99 each. I mean, it does not make any sense. I don't know who's making these prices up, but
I think you should always assume a 50% markup for the Disney name, the park's name, and then 50% more if it's 50th. So
fair. But like you, I was excited about getting the lunchbox and also the thermos. I got there, the lunchbox was sold out, but they had the thermos. So I have a thermos, no lunchbox. Good thing I wasn't planning on actually packing my lunch in that. So it all works out in the end. Let's switch to a new topic, Rock and Roller Coaster. If you are a fan of our website, wdwnt.com, and you have been visiting over the past week or so, you may think we've been publishing the same story over and over again because it says Rock and Roller Coaster closed again today, Rock and Roller Coaster closed again today, Rock and Roller Coaster closed again. Like all the way through, the Rock and Roller Coaster has been down and then came back for a little bit and then it was down again. It was down as of yesterday. Today it's back on the board. Stop, Desi, come on. No Steven Tyler impressions. So I look at this and I feel like, first of all, this is a major attraction for that park. Obviously, this is a park with very few attractions in it in general, and this is a major one. They just spent, I don't even remember how long, making the guitar pretty again. It feels like they should have been working on the inside at this point. But then the other problem that I have with it is when a roller coaster is the thing that keeps breaking, that I lose confidence pretty quickly. So, Coach, I'm going to throw this one to you. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's my running joke. I blame Al. I believe there's one guy named Al that walks around that knows how to fix everything, and he can only get to one thing at a time. This comes down to a preventative maintenance issue. Not to be Tokyo Tom, but it's one of those things where they meticulously maintain their rides. And I think it's one of those things where if any park that has the fewest amount of rides, you would think that they would focus on making sure those rides were actually up and running. So I would have to guess, and I don't know this for a fact, but my guess is they needed a part and they didn't have it, and they had to struggle to try to find it. I know it's kind of an off the rack type of roller coaster, but this strikes me as when they want to get something done quickly, they can. I bring you over to California with Small World when they had that disaster. They found a way to be creative, but it costs money, and that's a premier attraction, e-ticket type deal, and there's just no excuse for it. Oh, look at this pretty ride we can't ride. I mean, that's the joke writes itself. So,
yeah. David, I mean, I think you're an old-time roller coaster maintenance guy, right? I mean, you used to build them in your backyard. Is that how that used to work?
That's me. Yeah, that's absolutely how I started. I don't know what more to say about this other than it is yet another example in the long line of them that shows that, maintenance is not fulfilling its role. And it's not on the maintenance department. I think they would love to be able to have the resources to maintain these attractions. I think it is simply this is what's going to happen if you don't have the staff and the money and the investment in maintenance to keep these attractions going. I know a lot of us roll our eyes whenever Tom says about Tokyo, but they don't have the downtime, and you got to ask why, and it's because they spend the time maintaining rides.
I don't roll my eyes. I go, when can I go? Like, I feel like it's this promised land that when I go there, it better change my life or I've been lied to for too long. But I've not been there, and all he talks about is, well, you know what, it's better in Tokyo. Okay, that's great. I can't go. I'd like to go. Even when COVID wasn't a thing, it was expensive to go. So, I mean, someday I hope to go. Desi, do you even ride Rock and Roller Coaster? I'm sure your boys aren't tall enough to ride it yet, right?
They are not tall enough to ride it, but prior to having kids, I know that anytime I went to Hollywood Studios, I would say, I don't want to miss a thing. And that included seeing Aerosmith and going on Rock and Roller Coaster. It's very
too
sad.
much. It's too much. You need to just you're here. I need you to bring it down about 20%. It may just be me, the whole thing about the roller coaster thing, but when you don't have that attraction, you've cut down on the amount of people that you can help out and take care of in that day at the busiest time of the year. And with the park that gets the most people in it because they're all trying to ride Rise of the Resistance, it seems like you should put all your resources on this immediately to get this one fixed and up and running. And again, we have not heard, to my knowledge, why it was down, came back up, and then went back down again, and now it's back up. But it's too big an attraction for that to happen. I think if you're in Disneyland park and for some reason Pinocchio's not open for 4 days, that's a little bit disappointing, but you're not everything's riding on that one. This one, I feel like it's just, when you're looking at this, the park and what's available, you go to Twilight Zone, Tower of Terror, you go to Rock and Roller Coaster, you go to, Rise, maybe Mickey and Minnie if you don't hate it, because I love it, but I think some of you hate it. But, so there aren't too many other things to do in that park, and you really don't know that and realize that until you're waiting for a Rise of the Resistance like virtual queue or lightning lane that's not going to happen until 8 o'clock at night, and you're like, well, what do we do till then? Right? So I think that there's a lot of cool things in that park, but also I think, man, it takes a hit when something like that goes down. So let's move over to talk about Remy, because the Ratatouille attraction is now going to be the last of the actual virtual queue attractions right now. So, when virtual queue became a thing, it was about Rise of the Resistance. They tried to put Indiana Jones on it. They had web slingers on it. And then when Remy opened, it opened with virtual queue. When it was for Rise of the Resistance, I hated the idea of virtual queue. Hated it. Because, again, I hate mornings, and you make me get up at 6:55 on my vacation to then try to get on this attraction that is the one thing that I really want to do while I'm here. And then if I miss it, then I got to decide, okay, am I going to go to the park and try to get that 1 o'clock, or do I just give up for the day? And then, you know, it was very frustrating. With Remy, I actually maybe didn't hate the idea of the virtual queue, because if I didn't get it, it's not a big deal. I just wanted to see it. So it was not as important to me in my vacation to have that virtual queue system happen. But at the same time, the virtual queue was not great here, because you still had to wait like 30 minutes in an outdoor queue once you got there. David, did you get a chance to? Your family got a chance to ride this when you went down there, right?
Yep, we've done it a couple times, virtual queue each time, and you're right. It is, you know, you wait for your time, you go at that time, and then you're waiting another 45 minutes to actually get on the ride. So it wasn't a great experience, and I'm okay with them making this change. Although I do think it is a way to sell Lightning Lane, but it is what it is.
Well, and then obviously, I mean, David, do you think this is going to still be a Lightning Lane contender when, say, the Cosmic Rewind opens up, or do you think they'll stay with 2?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they'll stay with 2. I get why people are so excited about it, because it's new, but in terms of the attraction itself, it does not warrant that level of wait.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Desi, I feel like you cheated a little bit, because you got in with at least one preview on this one, right?
Right. I have only seen it in the annual pass holder preview, because I wasn't that blown away with it to try to get a virtual queue, because I live here. I don't usually even go, especially to Epcot, until well after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I've never gotten up early enough to want to try to get to the park. Well, I haven't woken up early enough to get the virtual queue, and then even if I got it, I wouldn't have wanted to go to the park that early. And then I have never wanted to go to the park early enough to try to get there for the 1 p.m. So I'm excited that it won't be virtual queue anymore, just because I haven't taken my kids on it, and I think that they are going to enjoy it. So I'm happy that it won't be virtual queue anymore.
Yeah, and I wonder if that won't like reduce the amount of interest and weight in it, if it's not one of those things that you have to do a virtual queue for or whatever. If you can do standby. Plus, when you're in standby, there's some things inside the queue that are kind of cool and neat to see that I would like to go see again. Lightning Lane, I don't know that I would ever pay for this one, but Coach, did you guys get a chance to ride this one when you were down there?
Yeah, that was a must do. The kids wanted to do it. We have now 7 and 5-year-old, 6 and 4 at the time. They both wanted to ride it. It was like their must do. So I just broke down and bought it just to make sure we could do it, because we had a short window. But you know, it's the same thing that I think about Runaway Railway. It's cute. If you have kids, you'll like it. Is it something that's an e-ticket? No. Is it something that you're going to want to queue for? No. I think like anything else, it was new and shiny, and then once everybody got off the ride, they were like, "Really? That's it?" So it's definitely not one of those rides where you kind of go, "Oh wow, I got to do that again. I can't wait." You know, you get off a rise and you're like, "That's the most amazing thing." It's not that type of thing.
You know,
my kids loved it, but again, you know, it was one of those things. They're 6 and 4, so
I think we were all.
My kids are 2, so.
I think we were all prepared,
Right.
though, for this from people within our company, no names but Tom, that this was not going to be great. And so I think when we all wrote it, we had low expectations walking in, and we didn't expect it to be something amazing. So I don't think we fought to be able to get in and ride this thing. But I think that if you're coming to it fresh, and if you're a little kid and you love Ratatouille and the movie, I think it's a fun attraction. I don't think that it's horrible. I think that you could put this up against anything at like a Six Flags, and it would still be a superior attraction. But I don't think it's the best of. I mean, it's definitely the worst of all of the trackless rides. I mean, to me, it goes Rise, and then Mickey and Minnie, and then this. So. Yeah.
I would say I put this above Mickey and Minnie, because I at least know what's going on cohesively story-wise.
How dare you? Okay, so let's talk about the Magical Express and how that's not a thing anymore. And it's really sad. I mean, that's to me one of those things that a lot of people look at Disney as an all-inclusive thing when they want to have that that experience where let me buy the dining package, and my luggage will magically get to my hotel room, and I just walk and follow the signs and get on Mickey's bus, and it's part of the whole attraction. I don't know why they felt like they needed to take it away and instead wouldn't just do like they did with hotel parking and just like price it out as part of your, add it onto your trip as part of your trip. If you want Magical Express, just pay the difference for Magical Express. Don't make it completely go away, because they took these really fun looking buses and now they're retheming them as drab as possible. It's just
I
like
think it's untheming, not retheming.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and again, Desi, you're a local. So, Coach, have you guys done Magical Express when you've gone down?
Yeah, we actually call it the happy and the sad bus. When the bus is coming, it's the happy bus, and when it's leaving, it's the sad bus.
Fair.
I think it's odd to me that this is such a missed opportunity in terms of keeping somebody inside the bubble. They're looking at this from a pure spreadsheet standpoint, cost benefit analysis, use whatever jargon you'd like to go with. But I just feel like it's you're now allowing somebody the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to rent a car. I'm going to find my own way there, and then maybe I'll do 2 days at Universal. This is in my opinion, a catastrophic mistake. I think it's going to result in them backtracking and trying to implement something that is their transportation. I think they're going to be incredibly reactive. It's just my prediction. I could be totally wrong about it, but I think this is a massive mistake. People are still going to take advantage of it, but I think it's they're going to lose their shirts on this. That's just my opinion. I think it's a huge mistake.
Yeah. I get the feeling you don't like the idea and you might think it's a huge mistake. One of the things, though, is to
just
make
in case
sure
you didn't hear me 4 times.
To make sure when you're driving around with your kids, make sure you point out the fun buses to the kids and say, hey, look at that. Look how fun that is. There's the airport bus. Yeehaw, that's exciting. David, I think you had the right idea when you called it untheming.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, we like doing it, but I'll tell you the part we're going to miss most is not the bus ride itself. It's the luggage service. That was awesome, especially the airline check-in at the resort. Just being able to drop your bags off at the resort when you're leaving and not worry about them until you got home was something that we would pay now extra for if it was available. But I'm assuming we're losing that because that was part of that Magical Express setup. So I'm with Coach on this. I think it actually drives people away from Disney properties. There's going to be more people renting cars, which is great for the car rental companies, but that means they have more mobility. Now you're going to have them going to Universal. You're going to have them taking in other Orlando sites. Stay away from certain parts of Orlando, though, people. But it's a way. Disney's going to lose money on that in some ways.
So you're saying they're in bed with big car rental? Gotcha.
National and Disney.
I just want to point out a super genius agreed with me.
Yeah, there you go.
For the record.
I assume that, Desi, when you go into the park, you're just carried on one of those big things like a
litter.
Yeah, exactly. Is
Yes.
that how that works?
Yes, every time. I've never taken Magical Express because I don't think there are any flights between Tampa and Orlando. And if there were, it would probably take more time to go through security than to just drive there. But I can definitely see why people would be upset about it going away. And I am just personally more upset that I have to pay for parking when I want to stay on property.
Well, and again, that's something they used to do at Disneyland. The first time I went to Disneyland and had to pay for parking, I was like, wait, this is Disney, right? Why am I paying for parking? And then when it was coming to Florida, I was like, it's a thing that happens. If you go to DC and you are, visiting there, you're going to have to pay for parking at any of their hotels. So I do think that it's one of those things that Disney hadn't been doing, but the rest of the industry kind of had been doing, and so that it was jarring when we had to do that. For this, David, I think that you're exactly right. This should be something that you can still add on to your trip if you want it. If you've had it before and you loved the experience, you should be. There's got to be a price tag, right? I mean, there's a $500 price tag on that Lionel train set, so there's got to be a price tag that is something that would be to their benefit that they could do that and still provide this as a service for people. Because again, I mean, I know a lot of, my in-laws were the type that would want everything to be all inclusive. And if the fact that everything you were doing was all labeled as Disney and arrows and that was one part of one system and you ordered it all together made it a lot easier than what's Mirrors Connect. And like, it just doesn't make any sense to me that they would still offer the service and not still call it Disney and add, as you said, the luggage. That seems to be a big part of it. So speaking of bags, I'm a little salty about this one. So they've run out of bags at Savi's workshop. You pay what's it up to now? $1,000 for Lightsaber now, something like that. When it first opened up, and in Galaxy's Edge you could make your own lightsaber. I didn't have like a Black Series nice lightsaber, and so I thought to myself, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to go do this. It was $199. I think when I did that and paid for me and my son to go, he looked at me like, "Are you nuts?" And that whole experience, I think it kind of changed you, because it was, as we've said, the opposite of what we've said about Star Cruiser recently. It's a luxury experience. You get this, like, there's a little bit of like, hey, the Resistance is putting this thing together. If you see anybody from the First Order, pretend like this is just a junk shop, and they give you this little pin, and you wear the pin, and so that tells you which saber you're going to get and to build, and then you go in, and there's this whole ceremony, and the lights change, and just the whole thing is so well done. And then on the way out, they're like, hey, here's this really cool bag to put your lightsaber in that's going to keep it safe, that's going to let you carry it home without breaking it, walk around the parks, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, oh, we're out of bags. Here's a clear plastic bag. David, tell me what level of service this is when they take a padded black bag with a shoulder harness and swap it out, same price at the time, which they've affixed, for a plastic bag.
I hate to see anybody lose their job, but somebody should really lose their job over how they handled this. This is ridiculous. If first of all, you got to tell people up front that it's not available. And listen, I know everybody's having supply chain issues, so I'm not going to blame them if they don't have them available. That happens, especially right now. But if you don't have them, tell people up front. Tell them, here's the discount we're going to provide for you because we don't have this thing that was part. It was part of the description of the product, by the way. This is not something they just threw in, as to be nice. This was in the description of what you would get. And so for them to just give this replacement that was clearly not the same quality and then act like, oh, sorry, we didn't realize that people would be upset by this. That's just bad planning, and that somebody's got to pay for that.
Yeah, and so here, just so you can see, here's Tom and Nick when they got their lightsabers at first, and the bag, and it's kind of hunched over because the very middle of it is even insulated and padded so as to protect the blade when you put it in there. And then here's the replacement. I mean, it's not, I don't know. It's just really sad. I don't know. Has anybody else bought a Savi's, paid for the Savi's experience? Desi, have you paid for that? I assume you have.
No, not Savi's. I just have the regular plastic lightsaber. But I think that they would have done better if it had like the Ziploc zipper. So just the plain plastic bag is really where they messed up. If it had that zipper, it would have been totally fine. No, it's awkward.
Savi's brought to you by Ziploc brand.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
they lost their Splash Mountain.
Splash Mountain. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, and put this in perspective too, is that they told us they were going to be getting rid of plastic lids, straws, and bags, and now here they're giving you new ones. I don't know.
Getting rid of one-time use plastics, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess they're saying you can use this multiple times.
How many turtles is that?
Isn't this exactly? And not only that, what do you have in terms of you could have used this as an opportunity, right? What does Kohl's do all the time? I got a friend of mine, Jeff. He's shout out to Jeff. He's watching tonight. Who's a huge Star Wars guy. He would be devastated if he was going out with his kids and did that. But I think this is an opportunity, right? What does Kohl's Cash do? Well, you return something from Amazon, they give you $5. Does anybody actually go to Kohl's and spend $5 on something? If they said you get a free thing with the next purchase that you make, we'll give you a discount. But if you go in and buy a droid, we'll give you $10 off your droid. as a sorry for not having that for you. It literally costs them nothing. It drives additional sales. I don't know. This is a missed opportunity. How are people not just up in arms, waving their plastic bags, getting angry? I think A. Drager in chat said that, I think it was A. Drager, said that they thought that they ran out of packaging for the droids as well. So it's like, is anybody having a conversation about what we're selling? I mean, it's the busiest time of the year. So I don't know. It's just a thought.
Let me ask you this: do you shut, like David? Do you shut this down as an attraction if it doesn't have all the pieces to it?
No, I mean, I don't think you want it because, although in the old days they might have. I think you just have to be upfront with people. We don't have the black bags. Because of that, we're going to give you $25 off the price, or we'll give you a coupon so that next time you're here, you can go back and we'll give you a black bag when we have them available. I think that's what you do. I don't think you have to shut down the whole experience.
Well, my concern is now that they've decided that maybe they could get away without doing that, if there is a supply issue, maybe they bring them back and like sporks, they just sell them in the droid shop or something, and they no longer include them with the saber. That's my worry, because this experience, the way it was so well designed, from the pin that you get to coming in to the ceremony to the bag. It was just like, it was so perfect. And it was $199. Now it's $219, and now they're giving you they've gone, oh wait, my bad. Yeah, you're right. Since we're not giving you the bag, we're going to give you a 10% discount. And so it brings it back to the original price. Cool.
So I did buy a spork, by the way, and the carrying case for the spork is so nice. It is ridiculous how nice the carrying case for that spork is.
No, I bought the spork, but the difference with the spork, I did too, and it has this little burlap bag, and it's got the Arabesh on the side. It's really kind of cool. But when the spork came out originally, people were stealing them. That's the difference. Now it's like, oh, we can't steal them anymore. Versus this is something we were treated to, and now we're not getting the whole experience. So, but those sporks, I did buy one. Yeah, and it was like ridiculously high. It was like the most expensive spoon/fork combination I've ever bought in my entire life. I think it was like $12, right?
Yeah.
So your fear, Rob, is they're going to go back to selling the lightsabers for $220, and then in addition to that, another $20 to get the bag. It's a nice case.
Yep.
Otherwise, you get the plastic bag.
Yep. That's what I think.
That's a reasonable fear to have, I would say.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not happy about it. I'm just saying that that's probably something that's going to happen. So,
yeah, Neko said in chat that a case is not a plastic bag. I think that's very, very good, valid point. I could picture Tom ranting about that. A plastic bag is not a case. I could kind of picture him saying that. So,
well, while we're just kind of poking fun anyway, let's talk about the fight. There was a big fight in Andy's backyard. I mean, we had fight on ferries, we had the throwdown in Toontown, and now we've got the throwdown in Toy Town. That's what I'm calling this one. There was a fight, and I think it was because somebody was upset that they got a plastic bag to carry their lightsaber in, and they weren't happy, and they decided to take it out on somebody else. So, Desi, were you part of this fight? And if not, were you at least wagering on it?
The fight would have been over much quicker if I was part of it. I'm like a one and done. But no, I wasn't part of it. I don't know what they could have been fighting over because there were no tumblers in that section of Toy Story Land. So no idea. There's no tumblers, no cucumbers. I don't get it. No reason to throw fists.
I mean, you know what? Back in the day, it could have been for rose gold ears. Yeah, you're right. You don't know what the thing would have been in this particular case.
I actually do, Rob. I actually do know why they fought. Yeah, they were really? Fighting over the fact that their scores in Midway Mania. They got really upset with each other, and they fought each other because they felt like they were cheating. Because one guy was just, shooting just in the corners, and he scored all these points, and the guy was getting really mad. So that's what I want to believe. I want to believe it was over an actual video game that they were fighting about. That's the only thing that gave me any comfort during this entire thing.
I just love that in 2021, somebody's first instinct was like, let me stop and video record this. Like, that's everybody's first instinct. I don't know if you saw that the video from the Eagles game where I think the quarterback was on his way out, the fence fell over, and they were trying to high five him as he was leaving. His first instinct was to jump out of the way. Second instinct was to help people up. That was great. It was great that he did that. The people who he was helping up, their first instinct was, let me get a selfie. Like, not do I have head trauma, not is my son okay, my friend, but let me get a selfie. Like, that was their first thing that they were doing when they got up. And so everybody's instinct, it was so funny. This guy got up, dazed and confused, but smart enough to know to pull out his phone and get that picture. It's just funny to me that this is where people go immediately. And, you know, David, the caption on this says, Disney is so ghetto, raise your annual price passes.
I gotta say, I was offended. I hate to say this. I was offended by that statement. Now, if he was teasing, you know, that's fine. I'll give him the joke. The problem is, I see enough legitimate statements like that when I'm reading YouTube comments, you know, on like News Today and our other shows, that it makes me really uncomfortable when somebody says that, because it's a very classist argument. It's basically saying it's the poor people in our parks that are causing these issues. And I would say there's no proof of that, first of all, and it's absolutely not true. The fact, and they have raised prices, and we're getting more fights now than we did before. So maybe the issue is the prices that they're charging. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt in this case, that he was being facetious, sarcastic.
Yeah, I don't disagree that he was being, you know, he was joking around about it. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think that they continue to raise the prices anyway. And I think that everyone who wants to go to the parks will find a way to go. I think it's not about that. I think that all they're doing is they're hurting those families of four who want to get into the parks and take their kids on that once in a lifetime experience. By just jacking the prices up so high for everything, Never mind the big $499 train, which will be the continuous punchline for the rest of this show. But I do think that, this stuff seems to be more prevalent. And I think a lot of it, to me anyway, and I could be wrong, and you guys let me know, obviously, but is that I think we've all been locked in our houses for so long, and I think we're all frustrated. Our anxiety levels are super high. And even when we get a chance to, kind of let off some steam and go and celebrate and be in these environments, it's still there's still such a high anticipation of this experience. And if one little thing goes wrong, I think you snap. And I think that's why we're seeing more fights post-COVID than we did pre. Maybe we just weren't capturing them as quickly pre-COVID. I don't know. But it just seems like every week, kind of like the whole day in and day out seeing the Rock and Roller Coaster close, I feel like every week we see one more fight that has been captured and that we report about. And honestly, I'm glad I haven't had to witness one in person. I really am, because I want people to go into the parks, have a good time, be respectful of each other. So,
yeah. I want to mention on that specific video, I've seen some criticism of the cast members in that video, and I just want to defend the cast members because they're trained not to get involved with those. You saw the cast member try to calm everybody down. And when he couldn't speak to them and calm them down, he left and was obviously trying to get someone to help him out. I am more concerned that security didn't come in pretty quickly. I mean, if you watch the video, it's a fairly long video of the fight, and security doesn't show up at all. I would have thought they would have been closer. But in terms of the cast members of the video, they were doing the right thing there.
It looks like the exit to the attraction to me, not the entrance,
right.
Which could stick with Coach's theory. It was about the scores. But I think that's a place where you're not usually going to have, supervision or whatever hanging around. It probably was a lot harder to get people there.
To your point, Rob, and you said this I believe on a previous show, you made the joke about National Lampoons where Chevy Chase goes, it's a quest, and it's a quest for fun, and we're going to have fun. And I honestly, when you said that, I laughed hysterically. You usually say things, but I thought about that statement after the fact. It's so true. There's so many people, there's so much pressure. We're going to have the best vacation ever. And I think, to your point, that's definitely where, because I know I witnessed it in Thanksgiving where people are just on edge, every little thing, where people just flip out, and this poor kid just wants to go to sleep because he's tired, and the parents are like, no, you're going to ride this, you're going to like it. So,
well, a Disney trip takes a lot of planning and a lot of money. And so there is that pressure to make it a quest for fun. So yeah, I mean, that is absolutely a thing that could have set it off too, but it did look like a group of kids, mostly. I could have been wrong on that one. Honestly, maybe at the end of the year we'll rank the top brawls at Disney parks, and then we'll do that. By the way,
that's
if you
what
missed,
we're doing for March Madness this year, actually.
Yeah.
Sounds like a News Tonight spoof for sure.
If you missed it, our last ParksCenter of the year was a recap of all the top stories of 2021, and one of those that we talked about, one of the top 25, was about the ferry fights that were happening. So you can go back and catch that episode. Let's talk about a little bit of a problem I have, and this is actually a big problem because I'm going to need this. This is the best, coolest popcorn bucket I have ever seen in my entire life, and I have held the Japan It's a Small World popcorn bucket in my hands. This is by far the coolest, and I have, speaking of anxiety, I have anxiety in the fact that day one these things will be gone from the Epcot International Festival of the Arts, and I will want them. And I'm sure every single person, like Desi said, she had talked to a reporter. I'm sure every single reporter has been hit up multiple times about, can you please, for the love of God, get me that Figment popcorn bucket? They haven't done a ton recently. This is the coolest one I've seen in a long time in the domestic parks. The one that they did for Toy Story with the Pixar ball on it was very cool. Post-COVID, they came out, I think it was post-COVID or maybe just pre, with the Onward van that had the lights on the front and everything. You know, these are next level. You would not put popcorn in them for anything popcorn buckets. And and so this is definitely, I think, to me, already the star of this festival that starts on the 14th. There are some other things about the festival, though. There's actually, I don't know, food, you know, if you're into that. So, I mean, we've got this looks like an oversized Pop-Tart. I'm into that. Tomato soup with grilled cheese. They've done that before, but it's really good. Some of this, like the sugar cookie, just all of this stuff looks amazing. This deconstructed apple pie. I mean, all of this stuff. This is actually my favorite of the festivals. I've only been, I think, once to this festival, but it was the 5th year, which I think was last year. So this was definitely my favorite of all the festivals because of the colors, because of the merchandise, because of the food, because of the whimsy, the creativity. The only problem that I have with this festival is when it is. It's at a hard time to get to it because, you know, if you're a family with kids, not a lot of people get more vacation after they've had a ton of vacation. So this one is a tough one to me. But Desi, what are your thoughts on the Festival of the Arts?
I was actually going to say that was one of the positives for me, was the time, because
Ouch.
There's a lot fewer people coming to the parks during that time. It is my favorite festival. I talked about it last year on Pressing Issues, but it's my favorite festival. I think it has the best food. It's the least crowded. You get to look at beautiful artwork. I mean, I don't see how the other festivals can compare.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that was also cool to me is, I think it was not last year, but the year before, that they had the magnet back when they were doing pass holder magnets in the parks. I don't know why they don't do that anymore. That was kind of fun. They had the Figment magnet, which is like one of the only magnets that I didn't get. And I literally, this is seriously something I considered, was getting on a plane and flying to Orlando to go and do Festival of the Arts just so I could get that stupid freaking magnet. Now, you're going to say, Rob, common sense, go to eBay and buy it. No. I need to get mine in person. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
I have 2 Figment magnets. I can send you one if you really want one. I never got Tinkerbell. I never got Orangebird. I never got any of the ones that they mailed out. So I'm a little salty about that. This popcorn bucket,
I think Rob's
by
frozen.
the way,
Are you frozen, Rob?
this popcorn bucket is way cuter, I'm sorry, than the Mickey Mouse one for the 50th.
No, I terribly agree. David, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was going to have the hot take that this is my favorite festival. It sounds like it is for everybody, so that's not a good take anymore. But it is my favorite just because it seems like they show a little bit more creativity in their food stuff. They definitely show more creativity in their merchandise. So I'm excited for this year. I'm I'm praying that Disney thinks about this popcorn bucket. They should be producing 18 million of these, because even after the festival, they're going to be able to sell them out, as much as they want. This should be a permanent piece of merchandise in the park, for now on. So we're going in late January, like the 31st, and I'm very scared they're not going to be available. I'm hoping maybe the first shipment will sell out, and then they'll be back from time for us. But
yeah, don't worry.
I'm not hopeful.
Don't worry, David. They will not be there. There is no way that they will be there. But I don't disagree with you. Day one for the 50th anniversary, when they had all the merchandise at Storybook Circus, we went and got there at like 10 a.m. The park opened at like 7 or 8, and they were already out of the Magic Bands because they only made like 1,800 or something ridiculous like that. And it's like, you have sold this park out for the day. You have this special limited edition Magic Band that has, to me, maybe it's just because I love Magic Bands. That seemed like the dumbest move to do that in such a low quantity, especially because they were getting $60 for them. I mean, it was almost what I imagine a Magic Band Plus will cost, and yet it seemed very short-sighted on that. I don't know why, because the only people that benefits are eBay resellers. Doesn't benefit the company, doesn't benefit the customer or the guest. It only benefits the resellers, and that's the tragedy. If you had too much of it, guess what? You would undercut the resellers, and you wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. The one other thing that they announced too, which Desi and I had done a review of Encanto, is there's an Encanto IP themed food studio coming, which that to me is so smart, so easy, such an easy thing to do, is to take some IP that is current and just theme a booth that you were already going to do something with to it. I mean, that's just such a smart thing. I'm excited to see that. Coach, have you been to Festival of the Arts, or at least looked at it from afar?
I mean, I think it's clear they have the best festival merchandise. It's not even close. Again, to your point about the Figment and everything, I mean, there's a lot of really great things. I think it's purposely put during this time because it's the best festival. And I just think it's when you have an IP that fits, to your point about Encanto, you have an IP that fits this. It's almost like a movie called The Princess and the Frog that has a restaurant called Tiana's Place. It's almost like you could have a restaurant called Tiana's Place that would it's almost like you could take and put that in and start a restaurant and it would work. There are certain things where you just wonder. I have this vision, this meme in my head where they're around the table and they're talking these things through, and they're just stepping on rakes, and they don't understand, like, how many of those Figment popcorn buckets do you think we should order? And my answer had been like, all of them, as many as we can order, and continuously order them all the time, because we know they're going to sell. Why would you even ask that question? Of course. And there's no reason to fake a shortage of these things. They'll sell forever. And that's just, again, to your point, Rob, all it does is benefit the eBay resellers, because what are these people going to do? We're all going to find a way to get one. And if we can't get one through the company, we're going to break down and get one. Some of us go on eBay. Other people jump on a plane and fly there and buy it. But either way, that's why you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's Jill Diffendahl's rant. I have money. I want to give you something for that. I want to buy what you have. Let me buy it. Why is there only one person working a register? There's a line of 9,000 people in the store. It's the same idea. Doesn't make sense to me, but as long as I'm not bitter about it, right, Rob? That's really the key. And I think
you're muted.
Rob's muted.
Well, it
wasn't
had
just me this episode.
Had to happen at some point. I was going to say there's a worker shortage. We can explain it to you after the show, which is why that's taking place. But people in chat there's Spike the Bee emojis all through there. Remember that spork? Remember there was a song about it? I think they were overwhelmed with those sporks, and so sometimes you can make a bad decision. But I feel like they must have focus group information that people love Figment, because all of the Festival of the Arts stuff is always themed for Figment, and people love even the dumbest popcorn buckets, because they go, hey, here's a balloon, now it's blue, now it's red, now it's orange. Like, I mean, and so I feel like and that's me. I'm the guy who's going to go, well, I got to have them all. I mean, right? So I feel like they should have known that they should know that this is going to be a thing, and they should have enough, but maybe they won't. I mean, David, you and me.
For a company that claims to be so data-driven, they make some very strange choices with the merchandising.
True.
It continues to astound me. And on the eBay seller front, they've made overtures to try to cut down on resellers, but the biggest driver of resellers is a limited supply. So.
Yep. So look for Desi to be selling a lot of Figment popcorn buckets online very soon, and I'll buy one from you, Desi. It'll be great.
Awesome.
Yep. So we've got one last segment to share with you guys. We're going to take a look at 2022, everything that's coming up in our domestic parks. So please do not go away. We will be back right after these messages. But also just a reminder that if you haven't already, please hit that like button so that people can find the show. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Deep in the Plus. Each week, join host Rob Whiteside and a panel of Disney superfans as they take a different movie or TV show from the Disney Plus catalog, tell you its history, details, give their review, and let you know if it's worth your time. Current shows, classic movies, and everything in between. Watch Deep in the Plus live Tuesday nights at 9 Eastern for new episodes. Or catch Deep in the Plus anytime on YouTube at unplannedDowntime.com.
Chomp at your neighbors.
Hold for Mr. Corliss. Hey, Tom.
Killed Nick Wilde and I'm wearing him on my head for warmth.
Oh! Oh, no!
Mickey is giant. It's time for your favorite. Cups.
And welcome back to ParksCenter. Again, if you have not already, please smash that like button. We really appreciate it. It really helps to feed David's ego. He's very ego-driven, so if you could just do that for him, that would be great. Do it for Dave. That's what we're all saying.
Please.
Just do it for Dave.
I beg you.
Yes, do it for Dave. See, look at that. He's very excited. You know what? We're very excited to be back with ParksCenter. We've got a lot of stuff coming up in 2022 that we are looking forward to doing. We've got the 40th anniversary of Epcot is happening, and WDWNT will be doing an event. Unless they invent 82 more variants, there will be an event in October for that one. We're very excited about that. So, you know, it's really neat that in 2021 we had so much to look forward to with the 50th, and as the year went by, like they would add a little more here and there, and there's a lot of things that we were really excited about we didn't expect, and there's a lot of things that didn't happen that we were expecting to happen, and then just a lot of things we didn't understand, like who picked those 50 characters for those statues? I don't know. So, you know, when we're looking into 2022, D23 mentioned a couple things that are going to be happening you know, for the year, things you're looking forward to. Obviously, in the theaters, we've got a lot more Marvel coming. We've got, you know, some more cool movies on the horizon in general. Disney Plus has some good offerings coming up, but we're going to talk just about the parks and some of the stuff they've announced. They're obviously for Disney World, and we'll talk about Disney World first, there's going to be a lot of continuation of the 50th, whether it's stuff we didn't get yet that we were supposed to get or stuff that they still have planned. Still a mystery. I hope they play it off from a marketing standpoint that it's because they were trying to stagger it all out. But that's going to continue on. Obviously, the Festival of the Arts that we just talked about is something to look forward to. But there's some things returning, like the Festival of the Fantasy Parade is going to be returning. Parking lot trams Hallelujah. I mean, let's hold our breath until they're all back in all 6 of the domestic parks. But that's supposed to be coming back. Magic Band Plus is on the horizon, and Hey Disney, which I feel like Hey Disney is just for them. Do you guys agree, disagree? I feel like it's really more for Disney because, I mean, who cares? And maybe you do care. I don't know. If you're out there and you care, then God bless you. Tom Strong says, R.I.P. Bob Saget. House Meets the Mouse was an all-time TGIF special. R.I.P. America's Dad. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the super chat, and yes, worth saying again about the passing of Bob Saget. I did used to love watching all of those, ABC, shows go to the parks, Modern Family, even in later years, and also The Middle. The Middle one was angering. We could talk about that post-show. But with the other stuff that's coming up, I wanted to get a kind of a feel from you guys as to the things that you're looking forward to the most in 2022. And Desi, you're clockwise. You're next. So let me hear from you. What are you looking forward to the most at Disney World specifically?
I really hope that Tron actually happens this year.
No, it's not going to happen. Move on.
Okay, if that doesn't happen, then I hope Cosmic Rewind happens this year.
Yes.
I know that I have little kids, and so a lot of what we do in the parks is for them. But it would be nice to have more e-ticket attractions that, so that when they get older, they don't automatically say, okay, we're too old for Disney. We need to start going to Busch Gardens or Universal instead, because Disney just holds such a special place in my heart. I like the idea of them putting in more of these e-tickets to try to drive more excitement with the older kids.
You know what? I agree with you. Universal's the one that gets me, is that when my kids' friends would be like, oh, you're going to Disney again? Universal's so much better. I'm just like, come here, kid. Come here. Because they have a lot of cool IP, and I get it. But, with Cosmic Rewind that you mentioned, like Cosmic Rewind's one of those things where, how many, 8 decades ago that they closed Universe of Energy? It seems like a long time ago. I feel like that specific area of the park has been out of business for a long time. And so they're like 2022, summer 2022 was the announcement that they made at Destination D in November. And I'm like, okay, so they went from maybe in 2022 to now summer 2022, which of course could be anywhere from May through September that they open that up and are still allowed to call it summer 2022. But when I look at this, I'm not sure. This was taken December 24th. They're not looking so ready for business yet at this point. I mean, obviously a lot of that stuff happens faster. We heard about, we talked about that with some other stuff, that building will continue to happen faster and faster, but the parks were closed for so long. Cosmic Rewind was already being built. The show building was already there before COVID. It feels like it would have been great if they could have just wrapped this sucker up when the parks were closed and had it ready to go when it opened up. So I'm with you. I'm looking forward to it. But it seems like they're spending an inordinate amount of time painting it and then repainting it and then repainting it again. So, David, what about you? Things you're excited about?
Yeah, so I mean, Cosmic Rewind's one of them. I won't cover that, but I think the return of parades in Magic Kingdom is something that I'm excited for. We really, really need a nighttime parade. I don't think anything specifically has been announced for 2022. I may be wrong.
No.
But that's one thing. There's one more I have, but I'm going to hold off until Coach goes because I don't want to steal his.
Ooh, okay. All right, Coach. There's a right and wrong answer, apparently.
Apparently there is. Well, he is a super genius. I'm going to say Magic Band Plus. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because I feel like they've underutilized that technology. I'm a Magic Band guy like you, Rob, and I think Magic Band Plus could be something that would be where they could expand on the platform a little bit. I know it sounds a little cheesy, but for those of us that went in and scanned our Magic Band at the turnstiles, and they had the different sort of magical AP stuff to it, my kids were pumped about it. So I just think the Magic Band Plus offers an opportunity for them to really step up their game in terms of the interactive portion of the park, make it a little bit more, dare I say, bring it back to more about the customer, the experience of the park, as opposed to just being on our phones and clicking through and sliding through things. I think that hopefully it can allow again, we have the caveat of Disneyland tech. Like Michael Sullivan says, Disney and tech doesn't mix. He's right, but hopefully they've had enough time where they can really launch this, and it just looks really cool, and hopefully it turns out to be something that is really spectacular. So.
Well, David, before you go, Kevin Lake is in chat and said, "Toot toot, bring back that railroad." I don't know that we've heard, but I don't know if that's the one thing that you were about to say.
That's a great one. That wasn't what I was thinking, but we need that. I'm afraid it's not going to come back till Tron, honestly, but
yeah,
we'll see. The one I was going to mention is probably an unpopular one, but Star Cruiser. I'm actually hoping that this is successful. I would like to see the price lowered, obviously. I think it should come down to a reasonable level. But I really hope that the marketing was just a marketing fail and not an actual failure of execution on Star Cruiser. I think the concept itself sounds really neat. I would love for them to be able to do what they've talked about doing and not just find out that it's, dinner theater.
Well, yeah, I think on our last episode, or I guess 2 episodes ago, Shannon compared it to medieval times when she was looking at it. So, yeah, I hope so too. Because again, as a Star Wars fan, I would like to do this, but the price point is so incredibly high. And then also just the idea of being involved in a simulation for 48 hours seems exhausting. Like sometimes you just want to take a break. And so, I mean, I get that this is the way it has to be if you want to do it and you get psyched up and you do it. But a lot of people would complain to me that when they come back from a Disney vacation, they're not rested. It's not a real vacation. Like vacations are to go and rest. And if you go with me, that's not how it's going to be. You're not going to rest. We're going to go, rope drop to closing, be in the parks, do things the whole time because there's too much to see when you go. And so this to me seems like that, but on steroids, because you don't have a minute of time. It seems like where you're just on your own if you're really taking advantage of the whole thing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Go ahead.
You did get a little bit of time on Batuu, so you had that excursion to Batuu, so that could be your little relief in the middle.
Yeah. Hey, we're all going to ride Rise of the Resistance. No, you guys go ahead and go. I'm just going to sit down over here. It's fine. Just do your thing. But it's going to be great. I just need a minute.
Well, it includes lunch at either Docking Bay 7 or ABC Commissary. So if you're in the ABC Commissary group, I guess
the well-known Star Wars location, ABC Commissary.
Yeah, exactly. It was that's a deep cut. So some of the other things that are coming is the Finding Nemo: The Big Blue. We've talked about that on past shows about some people liked Finding Nemo, some people liked just being able to be in the air conditioning for 40 minutes, and some people were like, what is that? I'd never stopped there. It's between Dinosaur and Everest. Oh, I'd never looked at it. And other people are like, man, kite tails. So those, like, Finding Nemo is one of those things where, like, I always appreciated what it was. I don't know what we're going to be seeing when it comes back, because everything we've heard was they've dismantled what was there. So it's going to be a new experience. But I do think Animal Kingdom, just like Hollywood Studios, are two places that need as much as they possibly can get. So I'm excited about that. And then Fantasmic is supposed to be returning. So again, to your points about entertainment, we're finally going to be able to see, Fantasmic and the Festival of Fantasy parades. But isn't it funny that we're looking forward to these as if they're brand new offerings where they're finally just giving us stuff back that we should have had all along? Yeah. So
yeah.
They're adding in new scenes, so it's not just the old thing. There's a little bit of new.
I think they're just fixing past mistakes, aren't they?
I mean,
okay.
It's still new.
Yes, you're right. It is still new. I mean, I've always said that if you make anything new, you put a sweater on Figment, I need to ride that again. You put the Coco scene into PhilharMagic, I need to see it again. Great
scene.
Yeah, and on
Great
top
scene.
of that,
Donald approved.
Oh, okay.
Donald approved.
All right. Well, just as
so
long
you
as
know.
yeah, no, that's good. That's good stuff. But the same thing with like the Living with the Land, that they've got hey, we threw some presents and lights in there. Y'all might want to go see that again. Okay, I'm in. Anytime it changes, so that is a good thing. I do love it when they drop those new things in there. But I touched on it briefly. But does anybody have any thoughts? And again, David, I'm going to throw this back to you because I've labeled you super genius for the evening. About, hey, Disney, why do this now? It's not like they just invented smart speakers yesterday, and aren't we supposed to be on the cutting edge at Disney? Why do this now?
I don't know. This is a story that I've never understood. They're touting it like a technological marvel, but I have that in my house now, and I actually don't use it all that often. So, I mean, I guess there might be some benefit to being able to talk to a device, asking it to go give more of your money to Disney for Genie Plus in the morning, but I don't get this one. I don't know what they're hoping from it. I don't understand what they think it's going to do for people. Will it do dining reservations? Maybe, but if you're at the resort, hopefully you've already have your dining reservations because you're probably not getting them at that point.
Right. Yes.
You got me.
So if I can roll over and say, hey, Disney, get me a noon reservation at Space 220, and it does, then I will love this forever.
That's awesome.
Rather than scroll, refresh. Sorry, kids, you can't go. So
all I want is to be able to buy the holder for my existing Echo Show. I just want my existing Echo Show to have mouse ears and the little shorts.
Correct.
I don't want to have to buy a whole new Echo Show just because I want mouse ears on it.
Okay. I think you're a little late for that kind of input, but all right. I think that you're probably gonna have to buy it at this point if you want it. I look at that and it seems like that's as if they're going, hey, by the way, now my phone takes panoramic pictures. Well, wait a minute. It's done that for like 19 years. Why bring this out now? I don't understand. But it is something that they've touted as something that's coming this year. D23 on their website said, hey, here's some things to look forward to in 2022 as this is coming to Disneyland and Disney World. So maybe it'll be fun. But I could just imagine little kids in the room yelling, hey, Disney, every 17 seconds to annoy their parents.
My kids already do that with Alexa.
Okay.
I just feel like Disney, anything with tech, Disney is always sort of like that person that in your life that doesn't have any tech skills. It's like, hey, have you heard of this thing called the internet? It's great. Yeah, 8 years ago. They always seem like they're like 6 months behind.
You only heard about the internet 8 years ago?
We're gonna add filters. We're gonna add filters to our. Yeah, that's been like that's a thing. Like, I don't know. It seems to me that I don't know. My running joke is that every time they talk about something tech, it's always people that aren't in the know always say the in front of it. I checked with the Google. I checked with the internet. So I don't know. I feel like this is the hey Disney. So that's just my thing. So
Jersey Johnny in chat brings up a good point. Spy on you as a customer. I have someone in my family who is deathly afraid. I gave them like an Amazon show for Christmas one year, and they were like, they took it back. They took it and returned it because they don't want these devices listening. And I'm like, what is so interesting about your life that you don't like, that you think Amazon cares? But I get that that's a privacy thing is a scary thing for people. And so if you go back in and you're telling people, hey, we're a little bit concerned about like privacy, this thing's gonna be sitting in everybody's room. That's a good point. By the way, quick thank you to Dennis Morris, the $9.99 super chat. Here's to a healthy and happy New Year's for WDWNT and all the followers. Be safe, everyone. Yes, absolutely. Be safe. And again, thank you, Dennis, for the super chat. But yeah,
Rob, do you mean that thing we all carry around with us every second of every day?
Yeah, right.
That is
right. Exactly.
This thing. Okay.
Yep.
Just curious.
Don't at me, but I have an Amazon, an Android phone, and Google once a month will send me a report, which I okayed everything. I said, yep, sure. I'm checking all the boxes, and it sends me a report. It says, here's all the places you went. Here's the pictures you took while you were there. Here's and it's just this whole timeline, and I think it's cool. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. That's neat. Because I mean, if my phone's already listening to me to send me Instagram ads, then I've already given all of that up. And I don't see that this one is going to be a problem. But there will be people that may say, hey, can you remove this from my room? They're going to have to come up with a solution for that. So let's move on to Disneyland Resort, because they've got some new stuff coming. But the thing about Disneyland is last year they had the Avengers Campus expansion, right? This was like this huge new land that had finally opened up. Never mind that it was supposed to open up in July of 2020, but the parks were closed then. So they opened it up last year, and that was their big new thing that they had. So that's open. That's great. but there's not anything to my knowledge that is like on the horizon for them. Like we've got Cosmic Rewind and Journey of Water, which we didn't mention, Journey of Water, Moana, Journey of Water, because I don't think they actually have given us a date for that one. They didn't tell us about Tron, Play, Journey of Water, Connections Cafe, Woody's Roundup, or that DuckTales replacement to the Perry the Platypus attraction. So none of that has dates yet for Disney World. But any of them could pop up at any time in 2022 or 2023. But there's not a bunch of stuff under construction at Disneyland that's going to be open soon. So, I mean, I feel like we've got Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, right? But that's not going to open until 2023 with the reimagining of Toontown. So all the stuff that they have is really just mostly stuff that's just coming back. We have, brand new, we do have the Magic Band Plus, and we do have Hey Disney. So that's going to be exciting. So they've got
Book
Mickey's
your tickets now.
Yeah, Mickey's Magical Mix, the Lunar New Year Festival, Celebrate Gospel, which we talked about on a previous show, and then Disneyland After Dark events. Now, to me, that's the thing, the Disneyland After Dark events. Have you guys been to any of the Disneyland After Dark events? Nobody here? Yeah, I've not either, but I've been to the Oogie Boogie Bash, and it was so amazing that I can't imagine that they don't bring another level of just awesomeness to these nights that they have. So they're usually at times where I can't go, but I may try to go out of my way to get to them if I can, because I think they sell out pretty quickly. But the one thing they've got coming back, David, be excited, is the Main Street Electrical Parade. Now you've said we don't have a nighttime show.
I'm very excited about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate that title. Main Street Electrical Parade needs to be running in a park somewhere in the world, and it deserves to be at Disneyland. So if they're bringing it back there, yes, absolutely. That's something I will make it a trip out there for, just to see that again. So very excited about that.
Well, I'm sorry you're a super genius. Then when we go to some of the other stuff that's opening, they're finally getting their Fantasmic back, which that's the heart and soul to me of that park at night, is having Fantasmic there when everybody gathers around and watches that show. And I think it's a better version than the one we have at Disney World, just in my opinion. But then at the same time, the seating arrangement that they've got, this entire huge amphitheater that they've built for it at Hollywood Studios is a much more comfortable environment to see it in, because if you've ever tried to get through that crowd from, say, Frontierland to the Haunted Mansion while that show's going on, that's a beating. But it's neat that it happens in the middle where everybody can just stop and see it, as opposed to it happening way off in the distance somewhere. So that part I think is pretty exciting to see that's coming back. And then also they've got the Disneyland Forever fireworks and Tale of the Lion King, and to me, most important, if you guys have never seen it, World of Color. Anybody here seen World of Color in person?
Yes, I've seen it twice, only twice, and it absolutely was the best nighttime thing I've ever seen at a Disney park.
And I had hoped that we would see something like that with Rivers of Light when it was coming, because it seems like there's a lot of that they could have pulled off. At Animal Kingdom, they built that huge amphitheater. Obviously, there's not a ginormous fun wheel in the middle of that lake, but a lot of that stuff seemed like stuff they could have maybe pulled off there. Because I know you can't shoot fireworks there because of the animals, but that seemed like that would have been a neat option to do. So I'm surprised they didn't try to clone that or something similar to it for Animal Kingdom. But anything in particular of that list that would make you I'm going to throw this one to Desi, because you're that Orlando local. Is there anything in that list that would make you fly out to California specifically for one of those attractions?
No. I've only been to Disneyland once, and there's nothing on this list that makes me feel like I need to go back a second time. I think maybe having magic bands would make life easier than the paper stuff, but I do have the nostalgia for the paper fast passes.
Well, based on those words, be prepared for hate mail, Desi, because Disneyland, you don't talk smack about Disneyland. Coach?
Yeah, I went there on my honeymoon many ages ago, and I remember I had gone to Disney World first, so I walked the two parks, and I was like, this is cool. Where's the rest of it? So it's definitely a different experience, but the nighttime would be something I'd be interested in, because it just seems like they have to try harder just because of the locals. And everyone, even down to the lanyards and things that they have when you go to these events, it seems like they take care into what they do. And I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm also super jealous of the overlays. So that's something that I know necessarily not on the list, but something that I think would be kind of cool. And everybody goes crazy with living with the land Christmas decorations. It'd be cool to be able to actually go in and see a different haunted mansion, things of that nature. So I'd be pretty excited to see that, quite honestly. I'm anxious to get back out there and kind of see, especially with the worlds and stuff going on out there. So
yeah, for me it would definitely be the After Dark events. That would be the thing that would get me to come back out there, because they look amazing. David?
Yeah, I mean, I've already mentioned Electrical Parade, World of Color. Absolutely, I would make a trip out there for the Forever Fireworks. Were a great show. I just, I grew up in Southern California, so Disneyland is kind of my home park in some ways. So I'll go out there at a drop of a hat. So I'm excited to go back. The only thing I'm disappointed about is that when I used to go to Disneyland, I used to be able to leave my phone in my pocket the whole day and not even look at it, but they've kind of taken that away from us now, since they're doing Lightning Lane and Genie Plus and Genie.
Well, I mean, the one thing that is on the horizon for them, if they make it happen, and we talked about this a little bit on a previous show, I think that we talked about it on our 2021 recap, is the Disneyland Forward project that they've got. So I think that somewhere in the future, there's a possibility that we may see some expansion happening at Disneyland, including things that would be like Frozen, Tangled, Peter Pan, Zootopia, Toy Story Land, things like that. That they're talking about taking some of this land on the other side of the road from downtown Disney and making some expansion of land. So I'm hoping that happens, because that's the problem that they have. Walt said it when he was talking about Disney World, that we have the blessing of size in Florida, and they've really carved out a lot of space for themselves over the years by taking over the parking lot and building parking garages and buying hotels and things like that. I would love to see more expansion happen at Disneyland in general, and it not be something where they got to tear down something. That's the funny thing too, is that at Disneyland they're not tearing down anything really, other than the one gift shop to make Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, whereas we lost the Great Movie Ride, where we've got the blessing of size. We lost the Great Movie Ride. So I feel like they do usually go out of their way not to take down things, because everything is so beloved out there. But I'm looking forward to getting back there, but I hope they get some more expansion opportunities in the not-so-distant future. And then on top of that, I'm hoping that we can somehow get a hold of this whole thing and be able to travel abroad again, because like I said at the top of the show, I want to see Tokyo. I mean, I want to see if it's as amazing as everybody's built it up to be. So hopefully that's something that'll happen sooner than later. But that's it for our show tonight. Thank you guys. Sorry we went a little bit over, but I wanted to make sure we covered as much as we could for our show back in 2022. Thank you to everybody on the panel. You guys are awesome. If there's anything that we left out of the 2022 look ahead, please let us know in the comments. Any of your thoughts and feelings, anecdotes, we love hearing it, responding to it, and we really appreciate it. If you are familiar with our WIGS program, we love our WIGS, the Interglobe Society, WDWNT Interglobe Society. We always say WIGS, and so saying it out, spelling it out seems weird. But that is our Patreon program. If you'd like more information on it, you can go to patreon.com/WDWNT. But our WIGS members, we will have our first post show of 2020 coming up right after this. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for being part of the show, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Sing it, baby.
Ba-da-da-da.